topic, which we have written down here, is the development of the art in the mind, and this really reflects upon what I do for a living, which is teaching piano. And sometimes when I sit at the piano, I can actually see patterns in those keys before I even touch the piano. And I was just thinking about this. We actually just, Sensei just told me he wanted to talk about that, but it's just hitting me now that it's very much like the art. After you train it for so long, you can see what you can do to your opponent before you even touch them.
Absolutely, and things start to meld together, like a melody. Absolutely. There aren't. What's nice about maybe a difference. What's nice about the art is that there are no notes that do not fit, which is really an amazing thing. All things in all combinations create success in this art. So what you see in the beginning of your training is you see a whole bunch of separate pieces. You see, this is the staff art, this is Sogobujutsu, and this is what I am training. Now I'm training something completely different. I'm training aspects of Taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat. Later on, you see that the integration of Sogobujutsu, the integration of warrior art, states that when you train one, you are invariably training all of them. I'm not training Taijutsu right now. I'm training Kusori Jitsu, Kenjutsu, Yari Jitsu, or Sojutsu. I'm training Hojo Jitsu. I'm training aspects from every single subsection and every single section of our martial art. We divvy it up into sections and we teach them as separate things so that we can create separate neurological pathways in the mind. These pathways need to be written separately so that when one brain farts, let's say, technique skips your mind. You're thinking about a neck lock and you're holding on to a leg. Well, that doesn't matter because we lock the leg and the ankle the same way that we lock the neck. So, boom, I'm back to where I thought my mind jumped around. I thought I got lost for a second, but I was never really lost. I found my way right back to the center. All roads lead to Rome, or the concept is that there are many roads up the sides of Mount Fuji, but one peak, and the plan is that you can go any different way in the art. Think about Tondo Jitsu, little staff technique, and you will find yourself in strangulation land. You'll find yourself in another aspect of the art that has everything to do with what is seemingly different. There are no differences, which is pretty awesome. That is trained that way on purpose to create many pathways toward the same center, so that when when the mind, when we look at it as a whole, we have, if you were to picture a room that you enter, that is Sogobujutsu. But there are many, many, many doorways to enter that room. And the doorways are labeled different things. So one could be staff, chain, rope, sickle, knife, sword, short sword, two knives, hands, feet, head, ground fighting, standing fighting, kneeling fighting, 2 attackers, 3 attackers, 4 attackers, sensory deprivation training. You have all of these different doors, and they're all labeled something differently. But after you walk into that room, you realize you are standing in a different place, looking from a different perspective in the same exact room. So hopefully that clears things up. And that's the mental side of how, through neurological associative conditioning, we learn. And the ancients knew this somehow. And it fortified the mental understanding, the mental aspects of the art, so that it would be written in the mind this is the difference between learning a couple techniques and being trained. So if you are trained, you will just do things because you're trained to do them. If you learn this technique and then this technique and then this technique and then this technique, and you're a technique collector, then you'll have a harder journey. You're going to have a really tough road because you're going to have to try to make one of those avenues work. If you're trained, it really won't matter what that person does to you. You're trained, you will do what you're trained to do.
I think that's a perfect segue to my little experience I had just last night with my girlfriend. And then she's not a part of the dojo, so it's fair. But we were horse playing on the bed, and she was punching me, and I was kind of punching her back a little bit, and she started kicking me, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, the kicks kind of hurt. Let me lock one of these, locked up her. Imagine, give me your foot. If you just put your foot to the screen, right, and you would be facing me with your feet. That's it. I would grab your right foot, right, and I locked it up just like we'd lock up a neck, just like you say, the same lock for everything. And she didn't like that, so she tried to swing a Hail Mary at me, and I closed my eyes and kind of did a tenkai without tenkaiing to deflect the punch with my elbow. And I kind of closed my eyes, and I heard a big boom, and I thought I broke her leg. I let go. I was like, oh, my God, are you okay? She goes like this, ow, no, it was my head. I hit my head on the wall. And, I didn't even mean to, but nice. the art did it for me. I didn't even plan on her hitting her head. I didn't mean to. I was so sad. I got a ice pack and all that for her, but I had no idea that was gonna happen. The art did it for me.
For me as an instructor, when I first began, I thought it was super important to outline these principles, and I would talk about different aspects and different principles, and I really need to drill this into the students' heads. Like, for instance, keep the technique between you and that enemy's weapons, being their limbs.
Perfectly,
And it's funny because my sensei, he taught me. He never spoke of keeping the technique between you and the weapons. He just talked about doing it properly. And when you're trained, what you'll see is was Brian thinking, I need to take the technique and I need to put it between me and her oncoming attack? No, it just happened. We, as teachers, sometimes we'll see something that needs to be, and we'll try to remind the person, remember, you need to keep the technique between you and weapons. Sometimes that happens, but other times, really the teaching unfolds, and the principle exists within the art so unified within its principal movement that you cannot separate from it. So it's almost like after the person becomes just the tiniest bit trained, you're almost like reminding them to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. They don't need to be reminded to breathe. If they're training this art, they will learn the principles, and even if they don't mentally remember the principles, they will be physically enacting them as a result of their training.
That's exactly what happened, too. It's really so cool. I'd got to go to my
Sure. Really touching.
So people, be careful when you're horse playing with your girlfriends or boyfriends. A technique might come out of nowhere, and you might hurt your loved one. So just, what I need to do now she knows not to horse play with me, but I need to, from now on, remind her, you don't want to play with me because I don't really play nice.
I'll tell you what though, it's everything's training, and it is fun. I know when my wife and I were first dating, I would do everything I could. Come here, sweetie. Lock her up. It is fun, and I understand that you want to share that side of you with that person too. Opening up and getting to know someone. How are you going to deny that whole side?
You can't. I was hiding from her too during the night. I was like, she would think I went back into the room, and I'd be hiding behind the bathroom door. And she came out like, "Where are you? Why are you hiding?" I said, "Honey, it's a part of my art. I'm sorry. I just do this stuff sometimes."
Stalking you?